Before we start talking about working with type-based logos, I'd like to spend a little time talking about creating shapes. I want to introduce you to the concept of paths and anchor points and some of the things that you can do with them. They're going to be useful later on when you start to actually create your logos. As probably everybody's aware, we've got a shape tool in our toolbox. If you click and hold on whatever is visible, right now mine happens to be the ellipse tool, was the last one I used. If you click and hold on that tool, you get the option of a rectangle, an ellipse, or a polygon. If you grab the rectangle tool, we know we can come down into our document window and just click and drag a rectangle. If I hold down my shift key while I do it, I will get a perfect square that'll work for all these shape tools. Pretty simple, pretty easy stuff. We've got another tool for creating shapes aside from the standard shape, and that is the pen tool. Looks like a little pen. If you click and hold on the pen tool, you'll see that there are various options. To start, you'll need to make sure you have the pen tool with no plus or minus signs attached to it. If you take the pen tool and come down into your document window, click and release the mouse, move your mouse over somewhere else, click again and release, click and release, click and release, and keep doing this process, you're going to get an odd shape with straight lines. So the pen tool is another tool for creating shapes. The pen tool does a lot more than this, but for the moment, this is what we're going to deal with. Now, that's pretty self-explanatory. We know that we click on one of these, we get anchor points, and we can manipulate the anchor points to change the shape. But we also have something else that we can use to change the shape. Once you've created a shape like this, the outer boundary of it is called its path. We can manipulate the path very specifically if we use not the black arrow but the white arrow. They call that the direct selection tool. I'm going to click to deselect, grab my white arrow, and click on the shape this time. I'm clicking right on the path with the tip of the arrow. You'll see that the selection's a little different this time. Instead of the standard anchor points in the corner, we have 4 little tiny hollow anchor points on corners only. If I take this arrow tool, this direct selection tool, and I click and drag on one of those corners, it'll move just that anchor point on the corner. Undo that. I'm going to click to deselect. If I click on the side, the path on the side of this shape, and click and drag there, I can make a nice little parallelogram out of that rectangle. So we actually have a lot more fine-tuning that we can do with our shapes. I'm going to go ahead and click on that to delete it. It's also interesting to note that this goes beyond just drawing of shapes. We can actually apply the same concepts to type. I've just grabbed my text tool, my type tool, and I'm going to make myself a text box. And I'm going to type the name of a pizza place. This is going to be Anthony's Chicago Style Deep Dish Pizza. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my type and I'm going to format it. I've got a little preset paragraph style that I'm going to use here. I'm going with Helvetica New Way, condensed bold. Instead of highlighting the text for this technique, what you need to do is you need to select the text box instead. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my black selection tool, click on it once, and you'll see that the text box is selected. What I am going to do is I am going to turn all of my letters, each glyph in this word, into its own little picture. To do that, I click on the text box, not the text itself. If I go up to the object menu, it's the type menu, and choose Create Outlines. Doesn't necessarily look like it did much, but if we click to deselect this and we come back and we click on any of these with the direct selection tool, hello, all of a sudden you see all of the anchor points. Well, what that means is that we can take that direct selection tool and we can manipulate any of our anchor points and do all sorts of weird things. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do something very specific here. I'm going to take my magnifying glass and I'm going to click and drag around my Y. I am going to take that direct selection tool, I'm going to click to deselect. I am going to use my little white arrow and I am going to draw a marquee around just the little anchor points that are on the end of my letter Y. If I do that, I can actually move and extend the tail of my Y all the way over. And I'll zoom out and you kind of see what I did. I just customized my type by extending the descender of the Y to make sort of a horizontal rule. And I'm going to position my subtitle up under here, and just with a little bit of path manipulation, we can create a custom type-based logo.